I'd love to hear your motivation before Digital Nest.
Jacob Martinez is the founder and CEO of Digital Nest, a nonprofit helping youth in underserved communities launch careers in tech and design.
How do you think about talking to the kids about American dream that's in front of them?
I give them a sense of reality. Over the years, they glamorize, take the risk, quit your job. That's for people with the safety net. The reality is for a lot of young people in this country, their family needs them. So what we try to do is encouraging them to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. You're not a failure.
What are now the key unlocks to really see somebody thrive?
In the early days, we were very much seen as a charity. I would tell people, we need you to hire our youth. That's how you really break the cycles of poverty, is by giving people wealth-building careers. We have a young person that got a job with a company called Crunch Labs over in the Valley. There's a YouTube star, and he's brought in 3 other investors. We got it going, and now they're the ones pulling each other up. They're the ones bringing connections in, and that's the dream.
I think one of the other things that makes you guys really unique is you also do a lot of partnerships with companies and businesses. What's your advice to somebody who's grinding?
Yeah, so
I've been following your journey for a while, building Digital Nest, but let's just kind of start from the beginning, and I know for you, it's a little bit probably on autopilot. But I want to hear a little bit of to build something from scratch, Jacob, it's hard work, right? The default state, they say, is default dead when you're creating something from nothing. And so I'd love to hear a little bit of your motivation before Digital Nest that drove to the origin of Digital Nest.
Yeah. So first off, thanks for having me. And more importantly, thanks for having our youth here to kind of learn and grow. And, because that's what we're all about. We in the communities that I currently live in, and with all the communities that we work in, there's just a lot of young people, and there's a lot that have a lot of brilliance and potential. And so meeting them over the years really inspired me to take that model of a Silicon Valley campus, or a model like Payson, this beautiful building where there's resources and the best internet and the best furniture, and bring that to communities like Watsonville is where we started, to give access to young people, help them dream big and see what's possible. So that was the real inspiration of me launching Digital Nest.
So let's kind of walk through a little bit of what that is for a young person, because it's a little bit of my story, growing up with, a family that didn't have much and go through high school or college, and access to, technology and education is really, it's a life changer, and can change the trajectory of where you're going to come to. So you started off in education, you saw what it does, the outcomes it does to kids. So walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think you and I probably met 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was, I shared an article I came across with Alexandria. It was a cover of Good Time Santa Cruz, and it was a little tree about the blossoming tech scene in Santa Cruz, and there was 5 companies on there, and there's only 2 that exist, and that's us. So
wow,
that still exists.
That's wild.
Well, Looker got acquired. So
yeah,
that
goodbye, Looker. The board bought them.
So there's I guess
bothers we have some ex-Looker people here, and just every time I'm saying it's you got taken over by the overlords. So
yeah, so it was pretty cool just to think about the fact that we're here, and really when I met you, we met at a coffee shop, and we just chatted about vision. I was getting this thing going and looking for support, and you shared your story, and I think the story of growing up in communities, like you mentioned, and needing resources. And you told me about growing up in Stockton and how this would have helped you. And so the people like you are the inspiration for this. Can we get more Jeremys in the world? And imagine what the world would be if more people who came from, humble beginnings and grinded through and had that grit, had the resources to start companies. What would be possible, So and it's now cool, 10 years later, we just opened up this year in Stockton. So, so we're in full circle for that story for sure. But it's people like you, that I think are inspiration. And, I know we have 10 youth here. I'm hopeful all 10 will be CEOs of companies one day.
Well, I think that's one of the stories, I'm most passionate about is, I hope it's not only 10 CEOs, but there's 400 people that are dialed in, and our employee base, and then maybe thousands others that'll watch this later. And my experience at a startup, being a young person way back was if you see this amazing opportunity and you're kind of around it, it is infectious energy. It's super infectious. And maybe it'll start not 10 CEOs, but 400 CEOs or 4,000 CEOs, which is, world changing, like that much creative energy unlocked in the world. You guys now have been going strong for a while. Like, so tell me a little bit about the outcomes, because you had a lot of alumni, a lot of kids kind of flow through the program. So what does it actually look like on the other side?
Yeah. So we like I mentioned, we take that model with Silicon Valley campus and bring it to rural communities that surround Silicon Valley, that are being impacted by the valley but not being invested in. And so we're in 5 cities, literally an hour away from Silicon Valley. And so youth come in, they get access to amazing space. We give them tools, we give them resources. They get an amazing network of mentors, of teachers and trainers and staff. And we layer on training and education, getting them the tools, and then help really build their network and help them leverage my network. That they're one person away from a CEO of a company, and so this idea that all the youth that come through could actually do it. It's possible. It's not a crazy idea. So we've had over 4,000 youth come through our organization. 70% of them are Latinos. Because it's predominantly the communities that we work in. So we're really proud to support them. We have close to 250 alumni. These are the ones that are now working in companies. And they're all doing well. They're all getting hired. We have one alumni that's working for you now. And so we're super proud of him. And one of the coolest stories is we have one person that's a homeowner in San Francisco. So we have our first homeowner. Wow. In 10 years to buy a home, and especially in San Francisco, like that's huge. So he was part of an acquisition. Wow. So he did really well. But his numbers we're really proud of. I'm hoping we can make more homeowners so that the youth can stay in their communities and help their families thrive and grow and help just make the world a better place.
So cool. I think one of the things you're implying, but it's worth kind of dwelling on, is you're talking about access to jobs in tech in Silicon Valley. You're talking about education. You're talking about home ownership. But the starting place is not that, right? Like, most kids like me, their parents didn't maybe go to college. Their parents, it's probably working class. Like my dad swung a hammer and they worked in the fields. And my, like the idea of a technology job or the American dream of home ownership almost is like, it's oftentimes a first time thing, right?
Absolutely. And like, you grow up and we're all told going through school to do well in school, do well in high school so you can apply to college, go into college and do well so you could graduate and get a job. But when you cross that stage of getting your diploma at a university, that's where it stops, right? The school system has done their job. They graduated you. There's nobody there to take those young people and help them realize, now, how do you apply that degree to a career? And if you come from a family that their parents, they're making ends meet by working labor, and they've invested 22, 23 years in their child to get them to this point to get a college degree, kid comes home and says, and the parents look at him and say, now go get a job. And the young person doesn't know where to start. And so that's a big part of what we do. We help young people make that first connection, find an internship, find a job, build relationships. And we're the network and some of the social capital that some of our young people don't have.
I love that. What are you finding, like, the first version that I was kind of aware of when you started seemed like a place where people could like go, use a computer or something like that. What are now like the key unlocks to be able to really like see somebody, sort of launch and thrive?
Yeah. I worked with a lot of students before the Nest, and and I just knew the potential. And I worked with a lot of students from universities that weren't the Stanfords or Berkeleys, but they were at other universities but they were there, and just brilliant young people. And so in the early days, we were very much seen as a charity, right? Oh, we want to help these poor kids from Watsonville, Salinas, and here's $10, help the kids, and I would tell people, yeah, we're a nonprofit, we need your support, but I need you to hire our youth. Like, that's how you really break the cycles of poverty, is by giving people wealth building careers, right? And so that flywheel's going now, and the coolest, two quick stories. One is that we have a young person that got a job with a company called Crunch Labs over in the Valley. It's this guy Mark Rober, who's a YouTube star, and he's brought in 3 other nesters without us even talking with him. He just recruits from the youth, and so that like they're now recruiting each other, and they're now their own network. And another story is at the benefit, which you guys attended and supported us, our 10-year benefit. 2 of our interns were there, and they were mingling and meeting people. I went to this event for ag tech, like agricultural technology in Salinas, and there's all these techies there, all these startups, and I see 2 of these young women that are interns, and I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing here? How'd you guys find out about this?" And they said, "Oh, we met the guy at the benefit, and he invited us, and now we're networked in, and we're coming to his events." So that's like the flywheel starting, right? Yeah. And it's like it's out of our we got it going. And now they're the ones pulling each other up. They're the ones bringing connections in. And that's the dream. Like, I think the digital nest is just going to accelerate in terms of the people that get here, get in companies. And like even here at Paystand, we got one here now. He's super talented. I hope you all see that. And then you're like, Jacob, get us another one. Get us another one. And then hopefully they'll be pulling each other. You won't have to come to me anymore.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things you're like kind of implying is, the notion of like flipping just handouts on its head and giving people agency, right? Like, so, the kind of old model of, hey, we're going to donate and then, like, good luck. But instead giving people like the tools to thrive and succeed. It's one of the reasons why as a company, we're so, I think, excited about what we do with paystand.org is our view is if you're blessed, you should be a blessing. If you're company building, you should give back, but that should actually create agency in the other parties. And so, I think that's what startups do is you are the master of your own destiny. You have the ability to make change. You have the ability to dent the world. Like this is, the incredible infectious energy of Silicon Valley. And I think one of the things you guys are unique that not all NGOs do is you guys don't just take sort of grants, but you guys actually kind of do work and do training. I'd love for you to kind of describe that because that's not all NGOs do that, right? So
right, part of the end of our training is what we call BizNest, and it's actually what Alexandra helped me launch and create from zero. So we get mostly college students or college grads or current students. And they're on our payroll, so they're employees of the Nest. And then we do work for paid clients. So you can hire us to, now we do software development. We have, you could graphic design, videography, web design, app development now. So you can hire us to do the work. So we're getting them that first job, that first experience. And in fact, Carlos was one of our original interns too. And so you can now help them get that experience that companies are saying we want entry-level people, but you got to have X amount of years of experience. Well, where are young people supposed to get that experience so they could come to the Digital Nest for that? We're just bringing on our next cohort in a couple of weeks. It's 40 young people. We had 550 applicants for 40 slots.
Wow.
Like that's just like, these are all college age people looking for that, someone to give them that shot, And so we're trying to do more. We want to bring in more. We got to raise the money to pay them but we're excited about that. We're doing some pretty cool partnerships with some companies and some that we'll be announcing in a few weeks too.
Wow. That's so cool. So, I think you're talking about like, giving people meaningful work that helps them have sort of independence and agency. We were talking about, first-time home ownership, which is another area to be able to, drive your own agency. And, for a long time, that was a big part of the American dream. And, I think, I don't know, this is kind of off the cuff, Jacob, but like, I find that for so long, there was hope and aspiration in Silicon Valley, in tech, in the opportunities that we see. It's like the most exciting time to ever be alive is right now. And yet in some ways it almost feels unattainable, right? Yeah. It's like, man, how would I ever buy a house? How do I ever get a job? What is the labor market going to look like? And I think that's it's such a bummer because we have more tools, more opportunity, and more like access for economic creation than ever. But for young people, it's a little bit like it's a little bit scary, especially at the age most digital nest kids are.
Yeah.
So like, what's I have a view on this, but like, how do you think about talking to the kids about hope and the sort of American dream and the opportunity that's in front of them?
Yeah, at first it's like give them like that like sense of reality. Like I think we over the years they glamorize all the glamour around being a startup, being a techie, being an entrepreneur, like take the risk, quit your job, like that's for people with the safety net, right? Those are people who can afford that. If something doesn't go well, don't worry, your parents will take care of your rent, right? Or you got this big Stanford degree behind you, like that, somebody else will hire you. But for the reality is, for a lot of young people in this country and a lot of people around the world, it's cool to see people tuning in from other parts of the world. That's not the reality. The reality is their family needs them. You've invested all these years in helping their kid grow and do well. The families need that income, right? And so whether that's like they don't have a year to kind of take on unpaid internships or kind of just create a startup and see how it goes, like they don't have that luxury. And so so what we try to do is like this is the reality of what it's like. It's hard to find a job right now. Like it's really tough. But it's about who you know. It's about your network. It's about asking for help. It's about leaning on us. I could get our youth to go speak to any employer, any company. Like they have a connection through me, and they just need to ask me, like, who do you know at this company where I'm applying? Who do you know? How can you make an introduction here? We have great relationship with you at Paystan. Like when jobs open up, they should be reaching out to you all. Like, so it's about who you know. It's about being there for them. It's about encouraging them to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. You're not a failure. And so it's a lot of that we constantly do on a daily basis at our centers.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just thank you for what you're doing. It's super cool. And I do think, it's both true that it feels hopeless, right? Like, do I get a job and grind and pay off my student loan and get a house I can't afford? And all of these things can feel hopeless. And yet at the same time, we live in the most opportunistic period in human history. If we literally were born at any other time in any other place in human history, it would have been not as easy or not as much opportunity. And so I want to kind of turn, because I think part of this is, something we're passionate about is the transformation of finance has a big impact, right? Like if I have sound money and if I have access to create wealth and store my value in my work, I can get ahead. And so, Jacob, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. But we've been slowly talking to you about Bitcoin for a while because you're touching so many people that Bitcoin to me was designed for. But in America, people just think about number go up, and they don't think about kind of real use cases that have real impact. And so, if you don't mind, I'd actually love for you to just be like where you're at from the first time Alex and I were like, "Hey, Jacob, you should think about Bitcoin at Digital Nest," and you're like, what am I going to do with that? Yeah. Right? Like, so tell me, like, it's a little bit later. We now have our first program that we're doing. Like, tell me where Jacob's at in that journey.
Yeah. I remember sitting down and Alexander's like, here, download this app and I'm going to give you a fraction of a Bitcoin. I was like, I wish you would give me one, but it's a fraction of a Bitcoin.
Everybody says that over time.
Just
They're like,
one.
no, I don't want any of this. What is this, rat poison? And a little bit later, why didn't you give me one?
Just give me one. I'm not asking for much, just one. And so it was like getting that in my hands and like seeing that and then like educating myself on what's possible and seeing communities in other parts of the world getting transformed around this, so and like here's there's in the communities that we serve, there's a huge unbanked population, right? And and especially in this country right now, there's a lot of fears around what that means to like put your stuff out there. So this could be like a really good opportunity for a lot of our families to figure out how to invest, how to use the resources that they have in a safe way. So I'm excited about this. This is like our kickoff to this relationship. I think it's going to grow, and get my staff more educated around it, get me more educated around it, because we have a huge, there's a lot of trust in the digital nest in our communities. So I think it could be a really good opportunity for families and young people to maybe leverage the digital nest to help them kind of see this new opportunity that so many other people around the world are taking advantage of.
Yeah. I think, just the financial inclusion aspect, I think it's not as well reported. We talk about underrepresented or unbanked places around the globe, but the reality is, even in like the US or in Mexico, where most of our staff is, underbanking is actually quite a big issue, right?
Yeah.
So underbanking for a lot of reasons, and so sort of being able to have tools for freedom is a really important part of controlling your destiny, and that's a lot of what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
I'm also curious how you think about, because I think Bitcoin plays an area of this. How do you think about equipping people on the next areas of tech adoption or tech education, right? Because, young people are more fluent in what's coming than, quite frankly, people, you're in my age, right? Like, we're now used to like the world that was, but they're so pliable in the world that is to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's changing so rapidly now, especially with all the AI stuff going on. And we're trying to stay on the cutting edge of a lot of that. We just hosted an AI jam with OpenAI in Salinas. There was a couple weeks ago, we were the host, and the co-founder of OpenAI came down to our center, or to Salinas, to do this with us. But so we're trying to stay on the cutting edge of this. And so we have a responsibility to our young people to prepare them for the future. So we have to be ahead of it. But I think they're primed. They're quick learners. They have tools in their hands. Like, we didn't have tools in our hands when we were growing up. They have it in their hands. So how do we leverage that? They're comfortable being online, learning online. We weren't, so there's a way to kind of spread the education out in a way that's more accessible to them, and they're comfortable in it. Now, I think still very important to bring community together, so you can, like you all are doing, like look around, you're all in like office space together. You could have easily all been in little Zoom windows, but you need that community. Like, you need to bring people together. You need to bounce ideas off. You need to, so I think there's a space for young people to learn quickly online, but we can't underestimate the power of community and power of being together.
Yeah, I think, well, part of being together is just seeing, because the world is moving so fast, seeing somebody else, like what they're doing, like really helps. It's, I think like when I got started in tech was like the dawn or the commercialization of the internet, and you could see the people who are like at the age of the nesters, for me, was, you became internet native. And then the people who were like a few years older than that just could not keep up. Yeah. Right. Like, there's a saying in social media, like, you're not going to make it, so I often like tell some of our more senior people, like, actually, you have a risk. It's oftentimes young people think that they have to break through, but I actually think it's now the other way around. It's like people there are two major changes in the world right now that will change the world. Like, one is like the transformation of money is like the first change in our economic system in like 10,000 years. And then, the transformation of AI is the first major change in the labor force since the industrial age. And like, if you're 16, 17, 19, 20, 25, like, you're so much more native in these tools. And actually, you're the one with the most agency, because you actually have the ability to be native in where the world and labor and the economic systems are going of tomorrow. Like, so it's wild. It's funny to watch kind of people who've been my generation trying to play with this stuff, and they're like, look like the grandma with the old big phone or whatever, right? So so I don't know. I would assume that the kids are really excited about some of the stuff, these symposiums you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about, like, if we had these resources when we were young, like, what could we have done on the internet?
Yeah.
Like, like, we probably would, like,
I got into a bit of trouble, I think, if I remember right. Yeah.
Well, it's just so you could get in trouble too. But like, so I think all the young people that we're working with, and that I know you all are like doing a lot with around the world, like, they have an opportunity to be on the cutting edge, on the front lines of this stuff. And so the economic opportunities for the youth involved in Digital Nest, and the youth involved in some of the organizations that you guys support, like, what an opportunity. And you got to seize that moment. You got to take advantage of it. You're going to look back 5 years ago and be like, man, I remember I was in that office and I was like, I had a chance to really get involved in this new tech and I didn't do it. But so you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah. And, you talk a lot to young people, and Jacob, you're always inspiring. But I think one of the other things that makes you guys really unique is you also do a lot of partnerships with companies and businesses. And so, I think you have 400 people here who are working in tech. We have a fairly connected business audience. Like, I'm curious, like, what's your advice back to people who are, they're grinding in their day job now? And we're a big believer, like the partnerships between, work and giving back are really important. So like, how do you see those kind of partnerships? What would you say to, somebody who's grinding, whether you're, in Mexico in a good engineering job at Paystand, or you're in, Google and you're watching this or whatever? Like, how do you kind of see the best of these partnerships?
Yeah, first, thank Paystand, because you guys have been supporting us, and you guys support us at our benefit, and a lot of your employees came and gave to us that evening. I've become good friends with both you and Alexandria and Scott, and so thanks for your support. And I think for everybody else, like, take a pause and reflect on how you got to where you're at. I guarantee many of you in this who are watching this have the same stories that many of our youth have, right? You're maybe the first in your family to go to college. Maybe you didn't even go to college, but you're the first person in your family to be a professional, to walk into an office like this and like be in this environment and to learn how to collaborate and learn how to create and be innovative. I guarantee most of you probably have that same story. Being in a room where you're probably the first, where it's the first woman, first person of color, first techie, whatever it is, first from your community to make it, so reflect on that and like think about how to support somebody else. And I think whether that's us or another organization, whether that's some kid you're sitting next to on the bus and they're going to go work at some low wage job, like what wisdom would you give that young person? And so that's what I would just challenge all of you to do, is just like take the time and pause, reflect, and find somebody you can help.
Get involved. So maybe to wrap up, Jacob, like where, if you are one of those people and reflect, where can they find out more about Digital Nest? If they want to, maybe they're just watching this pod, if they want to find out how they could bring in internships, or maybe you're a student and you want to, get involved and go to this cool Bitcoin program that Caitlin helped you, like, or this AI, some of the AI stuff you guys are doing, like where should they go?
Yeah, you could digitalnest.org. You can find us on all kind of social media platforms as well. I'm really easy to find on like LinkedIn and stuff. So please reach out, share ideas, and offer up support. And also, like, if you're a young person watching this and you need help, like our network is available to everybody. And I know we're in 5 cities: Watsonville, Salinas, Gilroy, Modesto, and Stockton. But beyond that, if you need help, we're here to help you. So reach out.
Be the change. Yep. Thank you, man. Appreciate what you guys do.